Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises belong to Allah the Almighty. And as always, we begin in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, the being that has granted us life, the one who grants us everything on a daily basis, the one that looks after us, the one that we look up to, the one that we ask for when we are in need of anything, the one that we supplicate to, and the one who is our point of focus at all times. Peace, blessings, and salutations be upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his blessed family members, his companions, and all those that follow them with goodness until the day of resurrection. I would like to welcome you all to a weekly reminder that will inshallah benefit us, like Allah tells us in the Quran, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that seek counsel, seek good advice, as reminders, they benefit the believers. So Allah is telling us that reminders benefit us. No doubt we will be sad that our masajid, our mosques have been closed for congregational activities, and we are no longer able to perform Jumu'ah in the masajid in congregation at current times due to the current circumstances. May Allah the Almighty get us back in touch, get us back in connection with the mosques as soon as possible. And may His mercy and blessings descend upon us all abundantly. Those that are going through any type of illnesses, those that are going through any type of sickness, any type of problem, may Allah alleviate their problems, remove their difficulties. No matter what times we face or experience, no matter if we are going through very tough times, difficult times, like the times we are facing, this pandemic that we are facing, as believers, we are always positive. As believers, we are always forward looking. We always take out good lessons from the situations that we face. And like Allah tells us in chapter 94 in the Quran, verse 5, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. So surely with hardship comes ease. So no matter if we are facing hardship, but we have the statement of Allah that we will face ease. And we should never look down. We should never lose hope. We should never lose trust in the mercy of Allah the Almighty. Allah the Almighty's mercy knows no bounds, it is limitless. The Prophet ﷺ, he actually tells us that a believer is always in a win-win situation. The Prophet ﷺ mentions, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. How wonderful, how amazing is the affair of a believer and other matters and affairs of a believer. There is good in everything for him. إِنْ أَصَابَتُ سَرَّاء شَكَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. If he goes through a good time, a time of happiness, and he's thankful to Allah, then there is good for him. And the Prophet before this mentions that this is exclusive for a believer. This win-win situation is exclusive for a believer. And if the believer goes through a time of sadness, he faces a difficult time, but he is patient, then there is good for him in that as well. So a believer, no matter if he is facing a good time, he is thankful to Allah, he is happy. And if he is facing a sad time, a time that makes him go through a phase of anxiety, then he should be patient, because like Allah mentions in the Quran, Allah is with those that are patient. And that is also good for him as well. So a believer is in a win-win situation. We should always be positive. We should always be forward-looking. And no matter how difficult the times are, we never forget our real purpose of life. Our focus should always be on Allah the Almighty, the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that we always keep Allah happy. The happiness of Allah the Almighty is given preference at all times. And we remind ourselves that we have to leave this world one day. This world is temporary. And we are going to go to our graves one day. And we will be accountable for our actions. So we always better ourselves on a daily basis. We always do good actions. We ponder and reflect over our state. And we are always looking to better ourselves spiritually and also in all other ways as well. so that we are in good connection with Allah. We have a strong connection. We build that connection with Allah the Almighty. Now, moving on, we are in the great month of Rabi'ul Awwal, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creation, the best of mankind, second after Allah the Almighty, came to this world in this blessed month, and he was born in this blessed month. And we always acknowledge this. We honor the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We love him very dearly, and we see certain individuals, especially like in the day and age we're living in, and currently we may have heard in the news where certain individuals, they try to dishonor the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and disrespect him, and they were carrying out desecration and something that we in our terminology would classify as a heinous crime. To such individuals, we say that we do not support you. We do not accept such actions of yours, and we do not support such individuals. We should be boycotting such individuals, but at the same time, we have to be peaceful in our conduct. We don't be abusive, we don't swear, we don't curse, because this does not befit a believer. A believer, he does everything in a state of being calm, in a state of not losing his mind, not being disrespectful, not being abusive, not being violent. Rather, he uses peaceful means to get his message across. So, whether that is in the form of boycotting such individuals that disrespect our Prophet, whether that is in the means of signing petitions, whether that is in the means of protests, and obviously we do this taking into consideration the law of the land that we are living in, and we have to abide by and follow the guidelines of the government. So we do all these and we take all these measures out of love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he loved us dearly. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spent nights in prostration for our sake, seeking forgiveness for us. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he loved us, and we should be showing that love back by respecting him and honoring him and speaking up against those that dishonor him and disrespect him. Allah the Almighty, in many verses of the Quran, He tells us how much we should be following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how much we should be obeying his commands. Obeying the commands of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is obeying the commands of Allah. Allah mentions, قُلْ إِن كُنتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. Say, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say to the people, if you love Allah, then follow me. Follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then Allah will love you. So if we want Allah to love us, then we follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah mentions in another place in the Quran, in a very lengthy verse, that if your fathers, your children, your spouses, the houses you live in, the houses that you cherish, your income, etc., your businesses, etc., if all this is more beloved to you than Allah and His Messenger and striving in the path of Allah and His Messenger, then wait for the matter of Allah to come. Meaning that everything that we hold dear and near to ourselves, our children, our spouses, our houses, our wealth, our businesses, everything, that's of secondary nature. Allah's love and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's love comes first, and Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's love should be more to us than our love for anything else. And Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are more dear and close and near to us than anything else that we own and possess and that we have connection to and our acquaintances, etc. Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in love come first, and that is why Allah mentions in another place in the Quran, النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is more close to the believers than their own selves. This is the connection that we have with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than we love ourselves. And we have to understand that the Prophet ﷺ was given this rank by Allah the Almighty. and it has been over 1400 years. There is no image of the Prophet, there is no picture of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in existence. However, every minute detail of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been recorded. Every step of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in essence has been recorded, and we see that even non-Muslims acknowledge and they agree to the high status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is what Allah mentions in the Quran, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ, and we have raised for you your mention. So the mention of the Prophet ﷺ, the remembrance of the Prophet ﷺ has been raised by Allah the Almighty. It has been given this divine status, and that is why we see that even in Salah we mention the name of the Prophet ﷺ. Even when we're doing adhan, we mention the name of the Prophet ﷺ. We recite salawat on the Prophet ﷺ, salutations and durood regularly, and we are mentioning the Prophet ﷺ regularly. Not only this, Allah the Almighty in the Quran, He mentions that He sends salawat. The angels send salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is how Allah has raised His mention, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is constantly being mentioned by Allah, by the Prophet, the angels, by the believers as a whole, and until the day of resurrection, the Prophet ﷺ's mention will be raised higher and higher. And this is a distinctive quality of the Prophet ﷺ granted to him by Allah the Almighty. If we look into the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ himself, we see the companion Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh, a great companion of the Prophet ﷺ, who was very close to the Prophet ﷺ, who stayed in the service of the Prophet ﷺ for a number of years. So he saw the Prophet ﷺ very closely. He mentions that the Prophet says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من ولده ووالده والناس أجمعين. That none of you can be a complete believer until I, i.e. the Prophet ﷺ, is more beloved to him than his own children, his father, and all the people. So we cannot be complete believers and perfect believers until we love the Prophet ﷺ more than we love anything else after Allah the Almighty. We see Anas radiallahu anh, he mentions that upon one occasion, an individual came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked the Prophet ﷺ, "Mata as-sa'a?" When is the day of resurrection? The Prophet ﷺ asked, when is the last hour? When is the last day? The Prophet ﷺ then asked, rather than responding to that question about when is the last hour, وَمَاذَا أَعْدَدْتَ لَهَا? What have you prepared for it? So the individual said, لَا شَيْءً, I have not prepared anything إِلَّا أَنِّي أُحِبُّ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, except that I love Allah and His Prophet. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, أَنْتَ مَعَ مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ, you will be with whom you love. On the day of resurrection, on the day of judgment, you will be with whom you love. So in this world, if you loved Allah, if you loved the Prophet ﷺ, you loved the Anbiya, the prophets, you loved the companions, then you will be with them in the hereafter, in the day of resurrection, the day of judgment, in Jannah as well, inshallah. If you stayed in the company of the pious scholars, you will be with them in the hereafter. But if you stayed in the company of bad people, if you stayed in the company and you loved these so-called celebrities, these individuals that will not help you, these evil and wicked individuals, or those individuals that are far from Islam, far from good morals and conduct and manners, you will be with them on the day of judgment and day of resurrection, and they will not be able to help you. So that is why it is important that we love Allah first, then we love the Prophet ﷺ more than anything else, and also we show our love for the pious individuals and we stay in their company, because we will be with whom we love on the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection. We will be with whom we loved in this world. We see Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh, he mentions, and this is a very important narration for us to understand, that our love for the Prophet ﷺ obviously is in our hearts. And the heart is the place of love. And we demonstrate that love through our actions. And when we demonstrate that love through our actions, that is through following the Prophet ﷺ's teachings. And that is why Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh, he mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to me, Ya bunayya, O my son, if you have the ability to spend your morning and night in the state that you have no enmity, no hatred in your heart for anyone, then do this. And then Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, وَذَلِكَ مِن سُنَّتِي, that this is from my sunnah, this is from my way of doing things, and this is from my teaching. And man ahya sunnati, whoever has brought life to my sunnah, whoever's given life to my sunnah, whoever's revived my sunnah, my way, then he has loved me. And whoever has loved me, he will be with me in paradise. So our love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam means that we should be showing this through our actions by following his teachings. And if we do this, then we will be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannah, inshallah. And Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, and I will finish off with this, he mentions لو كان حبك صادقا لأطعته. If your love was sincere and in reference to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you would follow him. If your love for the Prophet was sincere, then you would follow him. إن المحب لمن يحب مطيع. Because a lover for whom he loves, he follows him. And obviously, we love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we are lovers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so we will follow him. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to stay strong in this lockdown period. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to always have hope in Allah and put our full trust in Allah at all times. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to always stay positive and take positives out of situations that we may see as negative. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to demonstrate our love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, honoring the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sending abundant salutations upon him. I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in everything that he did, and I pray Allah the Almighty give us the ability to act upon everything that has been said. Jazakumullah khair everyone for tuning in. Hope you found this reminder beneficial. We request that you remember everyone in your du'as, especially those that are going through illnesses, those that are going through any type of problem, and a humble request to please help our masajid, help our mosques in this very tough and difficult time by primarily making dua and also by giving donations as well as much as possible. And we hope you can, inshallah, extend your help to Medina Institute as well. Jazakumullah khairah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.